Hey guys, it's Irene. Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't watched my last video on how to play the second octave of the G major and F major scales and the first octave of the C major scale, go check that out. In today's video, we are going to learn the first octave of the chromatic scale. The chromatic scale is a scale made up of the 8 tones that we know, the 8 notes that we know. So it's the C, D, E, F, G, A, B, okay? Plus the half tones. One example of that would be the F sharp that we've learned, okay, or the B flat. These ones, they aren't a full whole step from the main note, right? So going from A to B, that's a whole step, right? If you think about the piano, okay, if you think about the piano, it's going from a white key to a white key. But if we're going from A to B flat, that's going from a white key to a black key, and that's a half step. So those added in, there are 12 main tones in the chromatic scale. Now there are a couple notes that we need to learn before we can play this whole octave. So let's start off with the low F sharp. Okay, I'm not talking about this one that we already know. I'm talking about the one by the low F. Okay, let's figure it out. So for this F sharp, you want to finger the low G first, okay? And then you're going to use this left pinky, and on the left, you're going to, again, find the 3 keys, right? If you press the inner one, then you're going to get E. Remember, low E? But if you press the one on the outside, front outside, this is going to get you the F sharp fingering that you want, okay? So let's just try out this F sharp. Ready? Get that embouchure. Get the air, ready? How does that sound? Now you may think it doesn't sound that different from the other notes that I know. Well, then why don't you try it from G down to F sharp? Okay, G down to F sharp, try it. It may still sound normal. So let's try adding one more note. G, F sharp, F natural. Try it. That sounds cool, right? Try one more time. And just like that, you guys have already learned some of the chromatic scale. Okay, so that F sharp is going to be used. Now the next note that we need to learn is G sharp. Okay, G sharp is fingered again with this low G, plus on the right hand, right above the F key, there's this other key here, right? So inside top, that key with the G fingering will give you G sharp. Try that out. Now, like what we did with the F sharp, I want to try putting it into context and hear the half step movement. So I want you to try from G to G sharp to A. One more time. Good job. Now with all of these pinky keys, it's so important, again, I say this, that all of your fingers are covering the holes. They need to know exactly where they need to be in order for you to freely be able to use these pinkies without having to worry about anything else. Okay, nothing else should interfere, just these pinkies moving to keys that they need to go to. Okay, so for this G sharp, when you're pressing it, don't move any of your other fingerings. Really just get that pinky. If your pinky is like resting on these on these 4 pinky keys over here, just kind of have it there, and then when it's time, then press it. Make sure your pinky's not all the way up here flying. Okay, it has to be close to the key, and then when it's time, you press down. The next note that I'm going to talk about is B natural, or just B. And you may be thinking, Irene, we already know B natural, right? It's this fingering. Well, there's an alternate fingering that's needed for this chromatic scale, but it will definitely be used later on when you see other pieces. So how we play this is the B flat fingering, okay, plus using your fourth finger. Okay, do not use your middle finger here. Use your fourth finger, and what you're gonna do is, you see this banana key here? It's like the sliver key, but I call it the banana key. And you just press that with your fourth finger. Okay, don't do this. This is not right. You wanna do this. Sounds very similar to the regular B. Okay, so now why this is useful is because when you're going from that B flat to the B natural, you don't have to do this switching situation. Yes, in some cases you will have to use it, but you would rather have it be more clean, like, rather than you can make that transition very smooth if you practice it a lot, but there is a great chance that you will hear a little blip in the middle, okay? It's not a clear, it's, there's a little bit of a blip in the middle, okay? And we don't want that. We want the cleanest movement from every single note, okay? So now we have that fingering. It may be a little tough at the beginning to find that immediately as you're playing because you're not looking at your hands as it's happening. So let's just try from A to B flat to B natural, okay? And just find that key, not with your middle finger, with your fourth finger. Ready from A, ready? Did you find it? One more time. Great job. 2 more notes to go. One of those notes is C sharp, okay? You have regular C, right? Plus this pinky key, okay? Not one of these lower ones here. It's this upper one, okay? You'll see this is the lower joint, and this is the upper joint. It's the key, the pinky key on the upper joint, okay? So that is going to give you C sharp. Let's give it a go. Okay, so that's C sharp. Now for the last note that I'm going to teach you of this first octave, it's D sharp. Okay, there are 2 main fingerings for it, and we're going to start with this one. It's the D fingering, okay, D fingering plus this sliver key. This one right here, another banana key, press it with your fourth finger. Okay, let's hear how that sounds. For the second fingering, we have, again, the D fingering plus, remember that we have the side keys here. It's the first one, okay? The bottom one. Let's try it. Now when you play the scale, it's really up to you whether you play the side key fingering or the sliver key fingering. It's really up to you. I am one of the people who chooses to play the side key fingering, D sharp, but it's up to you. Now you're gonna sometimes hear me say that this is E flat or D sharp. They're the same note, okay? The D sharp and the E flat are called enharmonics, okay? Because they're the same note, they just have a different name for it. Typically, on the way up of a chromatic scale, or any scale really, it's usually called it by the sharp fingering, or by the sharp name. So it's called D sharp, because you're going from the D, which is the main note, and then you're going up 1/2 step. Right? So it's saying sharp. It's 1/2 step higher. That's why they give it the name D sharp. But you're going to find later that on the way down, it's going to go from E down to D sharp. But instead of saying D sharp, I like saying E flat. Okay? Because it's going from E down 1/2 step Okay, so then it's becoming E flat. So I just don't want you to get confused when you hear me go back and forth and say D sharp or E flat. I want you to know that they're the same note. And the same thing goes for G sharp. Remember the G sharp that we learned? On the way up, it's typically going to be called a G sharp, okay? G plus the half step up. But then on the way down, it may be called A flat. From A down a half step, okay? So then it's going to be called an A flat, but A flat and G sharp, again, they're enharmonics, okay? So they're the same note.